Well, good afternoon. Uh, Tim Walberg here. Privileged to represent the people of the 7th District in Congress. This is the first Monday after passage of the CARE Act, which was the coronavirus COVID-19, all of the different titles that we have, but it's what's shut our country down for quite some time right now, and we expect to be locked down to some degree for a number of weeks still further. But this is the first Monday after the passage of the legislation. Already many questions are coming out. Sure appreciate the Jackson Chamber of Commerce for their willingness to help their community out by providing an opportunity for me to at least address a number of concerns that are coming. And the phone lines here at the congressional office in Jackson have lit up for a number of days. So there's a lot of interest in what does this mean to me? We know that there are a lot of individuals right now sitting at home, as they're supposed to be, sheltering in place, trying to help themselves, their neighbors, their family from having the impact of the coronavirus. But they're also wondering, when do I go back to work? Or when do I get my business opened again? And some, sadly, are even saying, I've determined already I probably won't be able to open my business. It won't be there, and as an employee, that business won't be there. So these are emotional issues and important issues that we address as quickly as possible. That's why Congress did step up last week to complete legislation in relatively strong and quick fashion, so we can begin at least this third phase of trying to attack an enemy that is out there, but we can't see it. And that's what makes it unusual. We're doing our best. Nothing we do will be perfect. I'm certain of that. Our president has put a team together that's exceptional, but they won't even be perfect. But together, we're gonna make it, and we're gonna beat this virus and stand, I think, in much better stead for the future as we move forward. So we have a number of questions that have come through. I could go through a summary sheet that's looks like it's about 8-9 pages of all that was in. I could talk about direct payments to qualified individuals. I could talk about significantly boosting unemployment insurance benefits, $500 billion for a major corporate liquidity program, $150 billion through Coronavirus Relief Fund for making payments to states, tribal governments, local units of government, $100 billion for hospitals and providers, and I could go on down the list, but I'm not sure that would be as helpful to you as going through the questions here that community members here in Jackson County submitted for me to address. I think that will give a good insight into what's available for the general citizen, for the business that's out there, small business specifically, as we try to keep an economy from floundering too long and get it back building what's necessary. If you'd have asked me a month ago if I would ever consider voting for a $2 trillion bill, I would have probably at least laughed at you, saying, I'm a conservative. I don't vote for $2 trillion bills, unless, of course, it's the national budget. But here I am, having now voted on Friday for a $2 trillion package dealing with this. The issue is this was a virus that came in through no fault of our own. We took action. The president took action immediately. But ultimately, governments, state governments, local governments, and to some degree the federal government has said, you can't go to work. You can't keep your business open. You have to shut down. So we've taken away the economy for you, your family, as well as your community, and to some degree for this country. And for that reason, I believe we had to do something as a government. And I believe if we do it right, this $2 trillion will eventually be paid back in economic growth again. Because I think when we were at the strongest economic setting almost in the history of the United States just a month ago, literally 3.5 weeks ago, with unemployment record low, with 7 million jobs still going wanting for people to fill those jobs, and a GDP growth, employment rate, lowest unemployment requests in decades. And all of a sudden, this virus hits us, And now we are at some of the highest unemployment rates as a result of governments saying, stay home. So for that reason, I think the government needs to fix it and in the short run, pay for the redevelopment of this economy and your economy more importantly, because that's the most important thing. Will from Jackson says, is there a timeline for the administration to release next steps for small businesses to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program? There's also economic injury program as well, EDIL program that's there also. So I'll add that to this question. When will we be able to apply? When will the funds be available? Well, after passing that legislation, it was our intention that these funds be available very quickly, at least in the next 3 weeks. How you apply for them, either of the programs or both, is go to your financial institution, your lending institution, your bank, your credit union. Go to that entity. They will be supplying the program's resources to you. SBA, Small Business Administration, will be putting together how it will operate, but there's no way that the SBA could get the funds out as quickly as necessary. And so I think it's a great idea, and the lending institutions want it to be this way anyway, because they're going to be working with you, their customers, to make sure that you get back operating. So the best thing I can tell you, Will, is to call your bank, your lending institution, right away, even before maybe some of the guidelines are fully put in place. So you're on record with your lending institution that you're going to be requesting this. That's the best answer I can give you, and I think that's how it's going to work well. Call your lending institution, let them know that you'll be making application, ask them to supply you with the information that the government is giving them, and the timelines and all of that, and that will move you as quickly as possible. Paul from Jackson says, I own a small 3 employees boutique home accessory shop, which is now closed. In your opinion, what should be the first thing I should do now to keep my business viable post-COVID-19? Again, I would say call your lending institution immediately. Let them know that you are shut down because you were not classified as an essential business. You have 3 employees that don't have work right now. They will be getting unemployment insurance, but you're hoping, Paul, that you can bring them back. You have them trained. They are doing the job. You want to bring them back, and we want you to be able to do that when you open your business again. So again, go to your lending institution. Let them know that you are shut down because of the coronavirus and our government actions on that. You have 3 employees. You want to keep them, and you need to be viable. So that would probably mean that you would ask for a loan, for a Paycheck Protection loan. That Paycheck Protection loan, I think it'll work easier than I can say it, will be useful to you to provide for your employees benefits, their payroll, etc. during this period of time, at least for a while, to help them along with any unemployment insurance they might receive. So you want to get that. If you use this paycheck loan, protection loan, as it's required, it's all forgiven. It becomes a grant. And that's a benefit to you and your employees as well. If you don't use it fully to the extent that it's required, what you did use fully to the extent required will be forgiven and become a grant. And then the rest that you didn't use, according to the plan, you'll have to pay back. Janet says, I like that. We want it to be temporary. I've temporarily lost my job. Will I be eligible for both state unemployment and CARES compensation? Yes. At least for 4 months. You'll have the CARES compensation, which basically is $600 above what you would get from the state unemployment insurance compensation. We're attempting to get you as close to possible, making you whole for those 4 months. And hopefully within 4 months, we'll be rolling our economy back into operation again, following certain guidelines that scientists and medical professionals will encourage us to do. But nonetheless, we want to open this economy up again. So the answer is yes, you'll get both. Boji from Jackson, we're going through the worst time in our lifetime. Being safe and healthy is the most important. I hope everyone has a place to stay and food to eat. We are operating 2 hotels in Michigan. Today, our hotel in Jackson has 0 rooms sold. I mean, this is reality for the hospitality industry. You have large hotels with nobody staying in them. Why? They're to be sheltered in place. We have some hotels that are being made over into hospitals, etc., but this isn't one of those. So 0 rooms sold. We are keeping it open as essential business in Michigan because that's what it's called. Our governor defined hospitality as essential business because you have people that for one reason or another, even if it's for medical purposes traveling. So you need some of these rooms left open. He says, I would like to find any financial help possible from the federal government to go through this rough time. Let me read the exact language so you know it fits for you, Boji. It says, if you are a restaurant, and this is dealing with the eligible loans, it says, if you are a restaurant, hotel, or business that falls within the North American Industry Classification System, Code 72, quote, accommodation and food services, and each of your locations has 500 employees or fewer, you are eligible. So that's the answer to you, Boji. You are eligible. Call your lending institution as quickly as you can and start the application process so you can get the SBA loans to you as quickly as possible. We want to make sure that your hotels are still there when we open up an economy I think is going to boom again because we put the right policy principles in place. They were working solidly. They'll work again. Mark from Blackman Township. If I get laid off, must my employer maintain my health insurance? If you have employee paid group health insurance, yes. He will maintain that, and the Paycheck protection proposal is responsible for that as well. Matt from Jackson. I own a small manufacturing location north Jackson. Does the money I get from CARES require me to hire all of my pre-coronavirus staff back? Yes, if you're going to have that loan forgiven and made a grant. If you don't hire them all back, then what doesn't meet the standard, you'll have to pay back. But if you hire them all back, including fired employees, or an employee to make up for that fired employee, that will all be covered under a loan forgiveness and it'll become a grant. Dave and Karen from Jackson. Will retirees making less than $99,000 for a single and $150,000 for a couple be getting a check for $1,200 or $2,400? Basically, no. I say no and yes. No and yes. It's $75,000 or less. Not $99,000 or less, but $75,000 or less for a single, or a couple filing jointly $150,000. You then would be getting a check as a couple for $2,400. As an individual, if you're filing, it's for $1,200 if you're under $75,000. Andrea from Jackson. Are the SBA loans from the stimulus money from the $2 trillion package forgivable? Yes, they are, as long as you use them as required to retain your employees that had to be laid off during this time of shutdown. So yes, they are forgivable. If you don't use them completely as intended, then only the portion that met the requirements will be forgivable. The rest you would have to pay back. Kurt from Michigan Center. Who is policing businesses opening that are not closed to or close to being essential? What are the consequences for a business that opens and shouldn't? You'll have to check with my office. Feel free to call my office or email us. We can check more specifically. The governor has set of the state has set what is essential and what isn't. Basically, the trucking industry for transportation purposes, certainly law enforcement, first responders, medical care professionals, hospitals, and most doctor's office providing necessary service, not just unessential or elective service. But very few doctor's office would do only elective. So most of those would be in place. Certain public entities dealing with food service, certainly groceries, grocery stores, maintenance facilities, for instance, auto dealership, the front of the house sales, that's closed, that's not essential. But the back of the house for maintenance of a vehicle is essential. So those are the type of things. Logistics, there's, for instance, thinking here of something right in Jackson that we know very well, Alro Steel. Advertise themselves as, and I'm not doing a commercial here, but advertise themselves as a grocery store of the metals industry and plastics industry. And they are considered essential because if you're building, for instance, one of our Jackson companies, Technique is, I've read, is going to be building the face shields for our first responders and healthcare professionals. That uses a polycarbonate plastic as well as metal. Alro probably will be supplying that material to Technique or someone like that. So that would be left open. So as far as the consequences, there is a consequence. I don't have that on top of my head right now. The governor did make it clear. If you need to check with Attorney General's office, would have the specifics, but don't hesitate in calling or texting or emailing our office as well. We can find that answer. I just don't have that here in front of me. Those are good questions. These are the questions that came into us, and don't hesitate to contact us. Our office remains open to a great extent. Many of my staff are sheltering in place at home, but are attached via technology, so I or people who need them can get in contact with them. Here in the Jackson office, we have more of our staff who are still actually working in the office, answering phone calls and emails day in, day out. We want to be a service to you. We're using all of our best efforts to make sure that we keep ourselves safe from sickness. The disinfectant flows around here, hand sanitizers, all of the rest, but we want to be available to answer the phone call, answer your questions. And if we don't know them, we'll get back with you, so don't hesitate to do that. The best way always to get a hold of us the quickest is at our website, and that's walberg.house.gov, walberg.house.gov. And there's a link for email that gets us directly to us, and my staff can deal with that in the most rapid fashion. So we wish you all the best. Do what's necessary. Shelter in place. Don't go out unless you have to. If you have to go to the grocery store, yes. If you have to go to doctor's office or emergency room, call first. Let them tell you when and how to come and where to come. That saves you and others from the infection issues. Don't hoard things you don't need to. It's been made very clear that the trucks are rolling to get our food shelves stocked, toilet paper stocked, water stocked, all of that. So you don't need to hoard. If you do, that means your neighbor or a friend or if another family member can't get what they need. So let's work together on that. Look for ways to help people. Makes you feel better, fills your time as well. Give a call to neighbors, give a call to that elderly person that's kind of locked in. Ask them if they would like you to go out and pick up some food stuff for them. Maybe bring over a lunch or a supper to them. Call them, tell them you're going to leave it on the front step, and let them get it. I mean, all of these things, we can be very creative. It's been amazing for me to hear what people are doing to help others at this point in time, whether they're businesses or whether they're just individuals. Nursing homes, I've heard of people going and knocking on a window of a nursing home and holding up a sign with a phone number on it of their cell phone and saying, "Would you like to talk?" And very likely that person in the nursing home window will say yes, because they haven't talked with anybody except the nursing staff for quite some time. So think of ways of doing it. We'll get through this. Seems like a long time to think to the end of April is where we're looking at with what the president announced last night for the benefit of this country. But those 5 weeks can go fast if we fill it with good things and realize that as Americans, we always get through, and we'll get through this one as well. So thank you. Thanks to the Chamber again. A vital service to the community as well as to the businesses that are their membership. And thanks for making this possible.